Hello, people. You guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We're hearing you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome back. I guess you guys here are the survivors who are somewhat a bit normal, meaning you have internet and all of these things. Um, Hoping to hear from a couple more persons. Okay, I see some more persons coming in. That's good. So how are you guys doing? Is everyone here in town in Kingston?
I think so.
I think so. All right, let me put it this way. Anybody here that's not in Kingston, not in the eastern side?
It
No?
has some persons who would be in like Spanish Town and Portmore.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
They don't have, I'm not sure if they have light yet or not.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, anybody here was in the town hall yesterday with the UTech town hall? Did you guys hear of it? Or if you weren't in there, did you hear of it?
Repeat, sir?
There was a meeting, like a town hall meeting between the students and president yesterday.
Oh, no, I wasn't in it, but they usually send a summary in the group chat.
Right. All right. So did you guys hear anything?
Let me go check.
Not yet. Well, I mean, the conclusion is that we want to start back UTech on Monday, right? I also spoke to your studio lecturer, Mr. Bonick, and he was sending out a bunch of surveys. So I think he said maybe like about 20% or something like that is of students are not able to make it. Let me see. Right, about 25% thereabouts. But that wasn't, it might be higher because that wasn't everybody who responded. So, but as usual, you guys had gotten my email, or you probably got a WhatsApp, one of the two, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So my objective is, I think all our objectives should be to try and push through with the semester, because if for any reason we postpone the semester, that just going to mean a longer time with you guys being in school, which we don't want to happen, right? So I would still push to try and get everything that should be done in this semester done. As I was saying in my note, what we'd do is relax the due dates so that those who are not fully up and running will have a little time to submit. But ultimately, UTech is going to decide on some cutoff point. I don't know when that will be. I think it might be that the grades just get delayed an extra week or so. Usually there's a cutoff point in which the grades have to be there in order so that you guys can be progressed to semester 2. So I don't know when that date is going to be, but we're not going to be like, we're going to try and push ahead so that we can actually submit, hopefully within the semester. I'm going to try and work on some of even the assignments here, some of the work that we have to do, and try and compress it down so that we can actually make it. We'll try and make it before Christmas, preferably. The good thing is, anybody here have any exams? You shouldn't have any exams in second year. Am I right? Anybody have exams here?
We were supposed to have a couple of tests from construction technology, I think. But they were debating whether or not they turned it into a project or not, but we never got the confirmation.
Right. Because the idea is, well, those are tests. Tests is easier to deal with. You can turn it into anything. But like an official university exam, it have to meet certain requirements and all of that stuff. It's a bit more complicated, like to just change an exam. But as far as I can remember, so nobody has an official UTech exam. It's just module tests. Am I right?
As far as we're concerned, so.
Right, which is usually the case. I think you have exams in like first year, with physics and that kind of stuff. Anyway, so for DDM, all we have is a final project, right? And if we manage to kind of get back on the horse, we would be about 2 weeks behind. However, our original aim was to finish 2 weeks before the semester done. So I think we might be able to finish DDM in a reasonable time without having to do any major, I don't know, to squash anything or anything like that. We might just be able to make it when I look back at the schedule. But that's why I was trying to jump back on the horse today. So the deal is that whatever class activities we do, the timeline would be open for you to submit it, especially those who are not going to be here. I see we only have like a quarter of the class here. So that's what we're going to do. We're also going to debut the assignment, the first assignment. Well, pretty much no. Well, we already did one assignment already, which was the portfolio. The poster, the presentation board. And this is the other assignment. And that's it. We have no more assignments after this one. It's just the final project. All right? Which is kind of like it's not an exam, but it's like it comes at the end. And we're almost at the end. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some advanced modeling techniques in SketchUp. So did everyone here manage to get SketchUp up and running on their computer?
Yes, sir.
Some of us? All right, give me a thumb.
I messaged Mr. Campbell today though, so hopefully we'll get back to him soon.
Oh, so you don't have it on your computer?
No, sir. I did the last thing we did, but
You did
on
it
the
in-
web,
On the web version?
online version.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have it, sir, but there's like a slight issue. I can't have layout and SketchUp open simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
I have to like do one thing
Close one.
in one and then do the next thing in the other and just open the file in layout.
Okay. Well, no worries. We're not using layout today, right? So no worries.
I had SketchUp up and running, but I ran into some issues with it. So I had to complete the prior assignment with the web version.
Oh, that means you didn't get to do layout.
Yes, sir, I did layout, but SketchUp
Oh.
Pro itself is having some issue.
Okay, got you. All right.
Sir, can I say something? If
Yeah,
it
man.
helps, speaking to the class. So what I have to do, I have to, whenever I'm ready to use Photoshop or SketchUp or Illustrator or the next one, InDesign, I have to turn off Windows Defender in settings. And I have to do that every single time I boot up the computer. So
Right.
I turn it off and then I open it. And whenever you see you finish, you just turn off the computer, you turn it back on, and Windows Defender will automatically turn on. So
Right.
you'd
It's
have to
going
do
to
the same
be.
thing again.
It's going to be enabled. Yeah.
Yeah. Not sure
Right.
that. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Thanks for that. Additionally, there is a version of SketchUp that was free. It still is free. I was looking if I have the link here, but it doesn't have layout, but it's still better than the web version. I think it's called SketchUp 7 free. It's supposed to be lingering somewhere on the internet. SketchUp basically hid it because they want persons to use their SketchUp Make. That is it. That's the name of it. Because they want persons to use the web version. So they basically hide it or something. So it's called SketchUp Make. I did have the link. Let's see. Yeah, we no longer offer blah 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 blah, but there are a couple people, it's still lingering on the web somewhere. We'll find it. But in any case, guess what? On another note, I did find some interesting pictures I wanted to show you guys. Bring it up here. You guys can see my screen, okay, right? I'm screen sharing. All right. I asked my dad to do some digging, right? And I found some pictures. Kind of zoom in here. This guy here looks familiar, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Anyway, that was me and my dad. But the reason I'm showing you this, I'm showing you the house in the background. So this was about a couple months before Hurricane Gilbert. All right. He took this picture during the hurricane. That's why you could see all the trees are like, this was before, I mean, obvious, all of these trees got blown down. I barely remember, I was like 5, right? But all of these trees got blown down. This is where we're living at the time. I don't even remember. I think this is an Escort. Anyway, all those trees were blown down. Of course, guys, this is not a digital camera, by the way. This is like a film camera that you have to take to the store and make them, carry it in that red room, and they have to make it dry and chemicals and all that stuff. So it's not as clear, right? But, I was just looking back through some of these and I said, you know what? Let me show you guys some of these pictures. So at the time, we were living in Westmoreland. This was the house. This is the same house in the background here, actually. But I couldn't find a picture of the whole house. It's probably somewhere, So we lost about maybe 70% of the roof. You can't really see it from here. And pretty much all the coconut trees. And this is when he climbed up on the roof to take a picture. This was our neighbor here. I barely remember them, but I remember across the road, all of this was just water that was just flooded all across the road. Looks very similar to some of those pictures that you see going all around the internet. I figure everybody probably see most of the recent pictures, so I kind of just went to dig back in a blast from the past. So
This
yeah.
will be us in 20 years.
Well, in hopefully this was what? This was about 30 years ago. And you know, my younger sister supposed to graduate from UTech in November. She's in Skit. And you know, she's never seen a hurricane like in all her life. When she's grown up, we've only known about near misses, you know. You get a little rain, a little breeze, and you know, nothing too tough. So for a lot of people in Jamaica, this is like first hurricane, and at least for most of us that's on the call now, we probably weren't in the heart of it, right? But you know, you probably have a family member that was in the heart of it. But even the weeks leading up to it, you know, the media and all of the news, and it's like, you know, everybody's like, boy, yeah man, we're done for, we're dead. At the same time, there are a lot of persons that just never experienced one that will give a direct hit before. So even that last day when everybody waiting for it to make the right turn, and it just lingering out there in front on the south side, and everybody just saying, come on, just go on straight, just go on straight. But yeah, it did make the right turn. And anyway, I just found these pictures and I was kind of going through them, and I said, let me carry it through. This was me and my mom. So the entire house was like totally flooded because we were the I don't know if you hear about the story, but if you imagine Jamaica as a rectangle, Hurricane Gilbert basically cut down the middle of the island right across. There was no escape. Everybody from Westmoreland to Portland, or it's the other way around. Everybody from Portland to Westmoreland, because it went from east to west. So when it finally reached to Westmoreland now, which is us, and literally, I don't have a picture, I don't have any more pictures though, but I remember going outside when the eye was passing and it was a bright sunny day. It was like science fiction or something, right? But I can barely remember. But I did remember that we did lose pretty much all the roof. That was my school. That is me there. And this was the school that I attended. Like 100% of it was totally gone. So there was no school for a while. Yeah. And I found this other one. This was the airport actually. This one, it took up an entire plane. And you know, when you go to the airport in Kingston, and you have those trees that line the entrance. So this was close to the airport. It took up an entire plane. Yeah, and that's a Lada. Anybody know that car, Lada? No.
Yes, sir. I know that one.
All right. I think that's me there. I don't quite remember who took this picture, but yeah. But anyway, that's it. Those are the pictures. I just found a couple, just to share. So, yeah, you know, but we are more in St. Catherine. That's where current house is now. So, like you guys, will never get as affected, but the memory is still there, man. The memory is still there. One of my probably only memory is that there was this crow, this John crow, that was in the coconut tree during the hurricane, and it just hung on to the coconut tree, and I don't know why that one stand out to me. The coconut tree went down still, so I don't know, you know, what happened, but I remember looking through the grill and seeing that crow there. That's as far as I remember. Most of the other stuff, I don't quite remember. Anyway, just wanted to take a stop to just kind of have a trip down memory lane, right? Anyway, I suppose nobody here was directly in the storm, right? Is there anybody here directly?
No, sir. Safe and sound.
Okay. Yeah, it is quite but you did get some breeze though, some little breeze.
Yeah, I thought my roof was going to fly off.
That was whistling.
Yeah, man. Can you imagine? Man, and you just get the tailwind. Anyway, the idea is that I think it is much better nowadays, even though as most site was devastated, a lot of the construction techniques that we use are much different. I was a couple weeks ago, I was running through all kind of footage. I mean, there's no shortage of footage of all the devastation. But I took this screenshot here. Hold on, let me save this in this folder with the rest. Yeah, one of these drone guys that were taking some shots down Westmoreland, and I don't know if you can see it here, but this is a screenshot of the video. So, but as the video pans, if you look everywhere here, there is no roof, and this one development. I don't know if you can see that this is a development. It looks probably like could be a hotel, but this entire development with the blue roof, right on the coast, not even a damage. You see that, guys? Not
Yes, sir.
even a damage. So I was here saying to myself, wow, we need to find out what kind of construction was done there. I think it's standing seam roof, but you know, it just stood out to me when I was looking at all of the damages and stuff. Every other roof gone except this development. Even when the camera goes up more, I can send one of you guys the link. When the camera goes up more to Sandals and all of that roof gone, but this one little development. So anyway, that was kind of interesting.
Sir, the flat roof still stands.
Of course. If you have flat roof, it still stands. Yeah, but you know, flat roof is a double-edged sword, you know, because summertime, boy, it's not nice at all. But when there is a hurricane, hopefully once every half a century, you will not lose your roof. All right, so on to our main scheduled program.
Sir, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking here for the previous one, and I know I would have submitted InDesign exercise that you would have done in the class.
That was the class activity, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would have submitted the wireframe, but when I click submit the link, like I could resubmit it, even though I'm sure I already submitted it.
Okay. All right.
We'll submit it again.
All right. And I think because I haven't marked anything since right.
I just want to make sure the assignment is submitted.
Right. So I will look on it. When we're going through our thing today, we'll take a look.
Okay.
As we kind of climb back on the horse with everything. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Levy.
Because I'm not seeing it in my files, and I want to do what is called the presentation board, but I can't find the wireframe, so I don't. And
I can check if I received it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Levy, what's up?
Yes, sir. I remember the class activity, the one with the 3 boards. Hold on, let's push over this back. Yes, sir. For that class activity, I realized that I didn't write my name there. The one on the whiteboard.
All right. Hold on.
Could you permit me to do so for like a minute or two?
Yeah, man. Let me go to the whiteboard link here.
Sure.
It's coming up.
Yeah, it's loading for me.
BBM. All right, good to go.
Okay, sir.
And
Oh, yeah.
then, right. And then, okay. Wait, who was asking me about the submission again?
Tara, sir.
Yeah, Okay, Carla. So,
Tare.
yeah, Tara. All right. Here we go. All right. I haven't started to mark any of these yet.
That's okay.
Let me see.
Me too.
Tara, yes, I see here that you did submit it. Yeah, it's here.
Wireframe
there.
and the class
Okay, hold on.
assignment.
So that's class assignment, then the wireframe. Yes.
Okay.
And you did give me a little note as well. So yeah. All right. That's good.
Be able to email me the wireframe.
Yeah, man. I can just easiest thing. Just download it here. I'd submit to the PDF. All right. Message me in the Zoom chat. I think I can just send the file to you through Zoom.
Oh, message me email?
I can just send it to you in Zoom and you download it.
Yes, that'll work.
Just message me in Zoom. Let me just send it to you. Rochelle, I see you mentally exhausted. I'm just seeing some of the messages come up. All right, see there. All right, cool. Okay, right. So guys, so we're done with InDesign. We started with SketchUp, and we did a little Lego block to give you a little intro. Now we're going to dive down a little bit deeper. Right before we do that, I wanted us to look at let's see how we do it on time. All right, not bad on time. I wanted to show you guys something. Okay, so when we're in SketchUp, we're doing what's called modeling, right? Last time we modeled up a Lego block using some drawings. So we created a model from actual blueprint drawings, right? We got a top view, a side view, a left view, and using those views, we're able to model. However, one of the skills that I want you guys to have in SketchUp is the ability to sketch model, meaning just come up with something in your head and just model it, right? So I wanted to introduce you a little bit to modeling. Slideshow. Hold on, I'm just bringing up my slideshow here. Let's try this again. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. All right, you guys can see the screen and everything?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So modeling. This is pretty cool. This is what I drove in the latter part of CSA, right? I drove a 1990 Starlet. You know, in a class, you normally have the designated driver them. So I was one of those drivers. So anyway, a couple years after that, I decided to model it. You know, I didn't use SketchUp for sure, right? Because what we learn is that there's different types of modeling, and SketchUp is only one of the types of modeling. And you use different types of modeling to do different, depending on what you are creating, right? Right. So I'm just looking for this file here to show you as an example. Okay. Hopefully it will still open because this was a long time ago. Anyway, all right. So we have what's called solid modeling. You have what's called digital sculpting. You have some different forms of modeling, including 3D scanning. This is where you use something to scan something, where technically you're not really modeling, you're kind of just generating the model, right? So we were doing solid modeling. And here's the funny thing: there isn't like a definite, what do you call this, type of. There isn't a definite official list of modeling techniques. Like, people will just make up a name. So they will say, I am CAD modeling. You know, CAD modeling is not even really a type of modeling, but because they're using AutoCAD, they would say I'm CAD modeling. If I'm using Revit, some people would say, oh, I'm Revit modeling, but Revit modeling is not a type of modeling. So I'm just saying that you're not going to find like there are these official types of modeling. So some people refer to a type of modeling in their own kind of style. So some people call this solid modeling. Some people call it parametric modeling. So essentially what we did, we modeled it from some shapes. If you remember, when we built the Lego block, we kind of built up a rectangle and then we kind of cut out the shapes out of it. So it was built from what you call a primitive. A primitive is like a very basic shape, like a triangle, a square, a rectangle, a sphere. So whenever you start from a primitive model, like here, so like from this that we call surface modeling, notice that we started from a box and then we shape the box and then we shape it and then the box is now a foot. Same thing with the head, we started from a shape and then it went on to a full shape. So what we're doing is kind of manipulating the surface of the model. Now, SketchUp doesn't really do this type of modeling, right? We were kind of doing more this kind of solid modeling in SketchUp. But this is another type of modeling, right? Surface modeling is what I use to create the that model that you saw me show you a bit earlier. I kind of have a folder with all of this stuff, so I can show you guys as an example. See if I can bring up some more examples here. Right. So this was pretty cool. This is what it looked like, right? So this is using that surface modeling technique. It was definitely not this low, or else I wouldn't be able to even drive into UTech. But you know, kind of went down to the nuts and bolts. This was kind of fun to do for me, and might have exaggerated a couple areas there. But this is a type of modeling. This was done in 3D Studio Max. So this is what 3D. Anybody here know of 3D Max? You've heard the term before?
Yes, sir. I don't know how to use it though.
Right. So 3D Studio Max can do different types of modeling, including the one that SketchUp can do. Can do surface modeling, spline modeling. There are so much different types of modeling out there. This is the actual model. This is the scene for it. There's no insides. It's just the shell, right? And if I go to the wireframe here, you'll see all of the different nuts and bolts and all of that stuff that's there, right? So this is Studio Max, and it was done something like this. This is another type of modeling called spline modeling, right? And you normally use this type of modeling to get like very organic forms, right? So if you had like a very organic looking thing that you wanted to create, maybe it would be much harder for you to do that using surface modeling or solid modeling. So you would have to use spline modeling. Of course, so SketchUp doesn't have spline modeling. This was actually a project that I did long time ago. It was a facade for a building, and they wanted it to look like, you know, something from the Stone Age to make it interesting. But to model this kind of shape, you know, I didn't use SketchUp, and I didn't use Revit, because Revit does a type of modeling called parametric modeling, right? And this is spline modeling. So this was done in Studio Max as well. This is another type of modeling called digital sculpting, and how that works is, well, this is not a video. I thought this was a video. Anyway, anybody here paints? Anybody paints for fun?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes.
Cool. So imagine you have a canvas and you're using your paintbrush and paint, but for digital sculpting, you're doing it in 3D, and it's like clay. It's just that you're not using your own hands. You're kind of rotating the model on screen. So digital sculpting is normally used usually to create organic forms, faces, monsters, you know, biologic stuff. You would use that kind of modeling. It's like clay, you know what I mean? But it's just that it's on the screen. So we don't do a lot of that in architecture, but it's a type of modeling as well. So for example, 3D Max doesn't really do sculpting. You would have to use a program called ZBrush. Don't know if you've ever heard of that. But yeah, that's just another type of modeling. Okay, what else do we have here? Procedural or parametric modeling. I know I keep giving you multiple names because different people call it different things. This is what we do in architecture. When you use ArchiCAD, not SketchUp though. SketchUp is not really under this list. SketchUp is more solid modeling. But when you use ArchiCAD, AutoCAD, yeah, AutoCAD architecture, then fine. Revit, definitely. All of these programs are what you call parametric modeling, or procedural modeling. The reason that it's called parametric modeling, that is the more popular name, is because you are editing parameters. So a parameter is like wall height. So when you're using architectural program and you click on a wall and you say height is 10 feet, then the wall automatically models itself to 10 feet, right? When you click on a window and you say, oh, this window is a casement window, and it just suddenly changes to a casement window. It has quote unquote modeled itself into a casement window using parameters. On the other hand, if you were doing, for example, surface modeling, you would have to manually build that window, polygon by polygon, right? Which we don't do a lot of in architecture. In architecture, we use the software and we input what we want, window, door, furniture, and it just creates it for us. So that's the type of modeling that we do. And my video here. And 3D scanning is basically you scan, like how you see these, if you're ever watching the making of some kind of video game or some kind of 3D movie, and you see them scan persons' faces, that's another type of modeling. All right, so that's just a quick intro to the type of modeling. Now we are going to be doing this one. All right, so I want you to whip out your SketchUp, and that is what we are going to be doing. So the first thing we're going to learn today is how do we sketch in SketchUp. After all, it's called SketchUp for a reason, right? when we used it recently, we weren't really sketching. We were kind of following very precise instructions, right? So I want us to test out how do we sketch in SketchUp, right? And then when we're done this, I'm gonna throw out a quick like competition. Well, not competition, but I'm gonna give you something to sketch and see who first can sketch it, right? Anybody here ever used SketchUp before? Before this
this
course?
class?
Yeah,
A little bit.
a little bit.
Barely.
Okay, that's barely. All right, so you won't be disqualified from our little trial, right? But anyway, before we go to that, we need to kind of just get our hands around SketchUp because it's not just about line work. So the last time we learned how we can draw lines, turn them into solids, push, pull, subtract, that kind of stuff. But SketchUp can do some other awesome things specifically for architecture that's going to make your life just way easier going forward. So let's take a look on that. Give me a minute here. Let me just bring up my SketchUp. No, I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use 2024. There we go. Now the assignment that we're going to get now, that we're going to get today, is going to require us to model something. Not sketch something, but model something. A little more complex than a Lego block. We're going to have a while to work on it, so you don't need to bust your brain on it. But the more important thing is us learning how to sketch in SketchUp. So if you open out your SketchUp, it doesn't matter which units you choose. You can choose anyone, right? There we go. Any version, doesn't matter. You can even use the web version, by the way. So just in case if you don't have SketchUp Pro, at least for this part of the class, you can definitely still use the web version. Okay. Right, here we go. So let's grab your SketchUp and
Okay, welcome
there we go.
to another practical session. And in this practical session, we are going to be exploring more advanced modeling techniques and features of SketchUp. So if we head on to the website and we scroll down, we can actually see some sketches here. And these sketches represent like hand sketches. Think about the process of creating a concept for maybe a design or an idea for a building. You might do some sketches of maybe sizes and proportions and what you think your design might look like. Now, this sketch is important because it's a direct representation of what is in your brain, but it's not complete. So for example, if I look at this model here, and let me download this model and open it up.
Right, so guys, when you go to the website here, so if you scroll down, all the way down, of course there's more stuff added than that. Hold on, did I delete? Oh, it's a part of the class activity actually. But we don't reach that class activity yet. It's fine. Yeah, it is a part of the class, one of these class activities. Let me just open it up so you guys can access it real quick. All right, so guys, let's head over to the class website. Oh. I'm just waiting on this thing to load up. Come on.
Sir, is it the one with the beach house thingy?
No, it's the one that looks like, well, it has some sketches, like 4 sketches. Hold on. I think it's where are you? Somewhere. Oh, wait. Do I have to scroll down to see it? Ah, yes. That's where it was. Yeah, so if you look on the unit 3 and you scroll down. So yeah, so you see the one that looks like a beach house, but it's these below that one.
Below that one.
Yeah. So you should see these sketches here, right?
I'm not seeing it just yet.
So you have to scroll inside the box.
Inside the box?
Yeah. So like what you see me doing here now.
Hold on, I'm not seeing your screen. Okay, I'm
Right. So under unit 3 content,
okay.
yeah, just scroll down to the bottom and you will see them.
Oh, that was blue for me for a little while. It's probably still updating on the server.
Right, because these blues are still here. That's fine, but it's below those under unit 3. Right.
Unit
And
3.
I think I grabbed this one. This is the one. If you click on it, you see it come up. It's just a little sketch, nothing too big. You can just download it. It's just a little JPEG image.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. All right. Let us proceed.
Now, if I look at this model here, I can see that it's a form of a building, but there are questions that needed to be answered, like what's going on behind this building and all of that stuff. And this is where the ability to convert a sketch into a 3D model comes in, because you can now model this building and then use your imagination to extend what happens in areas that you can't see because it was a sketch. So that is exactly what we're going to do. And to do that, we're going to use SketchUp. We're going to put this to one side here, and I'm using the architectural millimeters template. It doesn't matter what template you do choose, because we are going to be using proportions in order to figure out, what sizes these are. Now, in addition to that, I have turned on the large tool set, because it's great to have all these tools up front. And after we sketch this in 3D, the next thing we're going to do is experiment with some of the visual features that SketchUp offers. Right? So we're going to look at the style editor, we're going to look at shadows and perspective, and all of these will help us to form the basis to complete your assignment 1, which is coming up coming up soon. Now, after we open.
All right, so guys, so the powerful thing that we are doing here is that, just imagine if I sketch something, which you can see like this sketch that I use here. Let's just imagine that you sketch this thing here on a piece of paper, but when you sketch it, like, you don't know what's happening on the back side of this model. You kind of only sketch the 2 sides. You know what I mean? Levy, you just kind
Yes,
of
sir.
use,
So it's not
your
like that.
imagination, right? It's not a 3D per se. So this is the beauty of being able to sketch something in 3D, because after you create your initial traditional sketch, which is what this is, my suggestion to you guys is carry it in a 3D program and expand your imagination in 3D. So instead of creating another sketch of this, let's say this is a concept for your whatever design you're working on, and you sketch this out and you say, yeah man, this is my concept. I'm gonna have a corner window here, I'm gonna have another thing here. But then you want to know what's happening behind here, so you do another sketch. What I'm saying is, don't do a next sketch of the back. Just do one sketch, and then you jump into SketchUp and sketch your sketch in 3D, and then you can turn it around and explore it more. So that's what we're going to be doing here, right?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to be clear, so we can sketch this thing here in SketchUp and we can just turn it around?
Yeah, basically. But the thing is, it's not like when you turn it around, it will be magically resolved for you. But what I'm saying, you can't turn around you sketch on your paper. you know,
system to detect.
You can
something.
imagine, right? You can imagine what the back of that sketch will look like. But the thing is, you're kind of stuck in your head because of the method of how you model in SketchUp. It's almost like you are half creating the parts of the model that you can't see. You're kind of half creating it already, even without trying. So that's why I say you can literally turn your model around and then resolve the backside. Because when you sketch this in 3D, in order to create that part that we can see, there are some things we're going to have to do that will take care of the parts that we can't see. Right? So what we're going to be learning is, how do we break down a sketch when we draw something on a piece of paper? How do we something that is 3D but on a flat piece of paper? How do we interpret that in a sketch? And as I said, this is something that, guys, that you need to definitely master. Almost to the point of, imagine you have a desk grid and maybe a lecturer sit beside you and you want to just sketch up something quick for them to see the idea that you're saying. I want you guys to have the speed to be able to do that in SketchUp, right? Just as quick, which is very much possible. Because the reason this entire software is called SketchUp is because it can sketch really quickly. So anyway, let's jump into it.
In SketchUp, the great thing we do have is a nice proportional figure here. So we have a rough idea of how tall an average person is, you know, maybe 5.5 feet thereabouts. So right away we can use this to judge stories and heights and things like that. And this is important because it is important that you rely on quick sketches. A sketch can get the idea out of your brain real quickly. The 3D will expand on that idea after you create what you had initially sketched. So we're going to look at how we would start with this model here. Okay, so now if we are to start a sketch like this, the first thing we'd have to do is kind of analyze a bit of what's happening here. So for example, well, we know that this is basically on a square base. So the first thing we could do is perhaps draw a square base, and I'm going to use my rectangle tool that is located here to do this. Now if I use that tool, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to start from the center. Remember, this is an estimate, so I'm going to assume that it is a square. So notice I get that guideline to tell me that, you know, this is an even square. And I'm going to make an assumption that maybe my building is about this big. Now remember, I don't really have any measurements. Instead, I'm just assuming that perhaps a person would maybe be about that stature. So maybe this level here is perhaps 1 story. So it's probably about 10 feet, thereabout. Now, remember, so this is really coming from a sketch. So a couple of assumptions would have to be made. Now, if I look at how the legs are turned, I could assume that maybe there is probably maybe something like that, maybe something like that, and then on the other side it's pretty similar. Now remember, because it's a sketch, I don't know exactly what's happening on the back side, but I can only assume, and this is the power of 3D. Now we have to start making some assumptions. You know, maybe there's another one on this side, I'm not sure, but we're gonna go with that assumption. Okay, so we are gonna get perhaps another rectangle tool like that. Now there is one very important fact that we need to consider when using SketchUp. Now SketchUp has what I'd like to term as sticky fingers, meaning, notice I've drawn this shape over here. If I use my move tool, which is located here, and I click at a location to grab the object, so I click once. Okay, sorry, let me highlight that object first. So I'm going to use my selection tool, highlight the object, then use my move tool and click at a location to grab the object, and I click once and then move the mouse. I'm not holding down on the button, but I'm just clicking once. Now when I move this here, and you don't have to follow me, I'm just demonstrating what I call sticky fingers, and I drop it there. Now what you will notice is if you try to move this again, you will see that this is now stuck to where you have put it. And this is essentially how SketchUp operates by default. Once two shapes touch, they are going to basically merge. This is perhaps one of the primary things you need to understand of how SketchUp works. And this is kind of unique to SketchUp because this, if you use a lot of 3D modeling software, this feature is actually quite weird in my opinion. So anyway, I'm going to undo that. So remember, once two shape touch, doesn't matter even if it goes inside, it has now become a part of that shape. It's now stuck together. So what we want to do is, to avoid this, we would have to turn this shape into a group or a component, and we're going to look at the difference between the two. Now when something is a group, it's all individual. So for example, I can select this, and let's say I want to make a copy of this. Well, I could do the regular copy and paste. I'm going to put this over here. Now this copy, what I'll do is right click and I would say make it into a group. Now notice the difference between the, notice the different terminologies that currently exist. You can have an object as a group, or you can have an object as a component. So again, if I right click, I can get the option to make it a group or a component. Now I'm going to make this one a group, and now it's a group. So let me use my selection tool and deselect. If I click on this shape, the entire shape selects. This is my original over here, and if I click on it, notice that I'm still able to select one line, and I can select another line, and I can actually click my move tool and just move this line alone and so forth. But if I click on this, I'm not able to select one line. It's going to select the entire object, and if I try to move it, the whole object will move. And that's because this object is now a group. Now once an object is grouped, then it doesn't suffer from the same sticky fingers. So for example, if I highlight it first and then I go to my move tool and I move this object here, then voila, it does not stick to the object because it is kind of encased in a group, right? And not, I would call it, exposed to this sticky fingers syndrome. Now there is another interesting thing about groups, and to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna copy this original again. So let's keep track of it. This one here is the original, and this one here is a group. Now that's G, so that represents group, and this is the original. Now if I select the original, and I'm going to do the same thing again, I'm gonna copy and paste that over here. Now this time I'm going to right click it and I'm going to make it a component. Now when I make it a component, it's going to ask me to name the component, right? So I'm going to call this example, because I'm giving an example, so I'm going to name the object example. So this is essentially giving this component some properties, right? And you can see you can give it size, price, and name. Essentially you're adding more information to this object, but we're just going to add a name called example as the only information. I'm going to go to create. Now what we have here is a component, so I'm going to put C there because this is a component. Now the interesting thing about components is if I should copy the component, so I'm going to go copy and paste. So I've now copied the component, and I'm going to do the same thing to the group. I'm going to copy the group and paste the group. All right, so in here we have a component, and here we have a group. Now I don't need to copy the original, we have been copying it since, but I'm still going to copy it, so I'm going to copy the group here. So here we have the original object. Now the thing about this is, as you know, the original object is really just two different objects, but of course we know when something is exposed as an original object, once it touches anything else, you try to move it again, it becomes stuck. So we know that when you have objects in SketchUp, that is what will happen. Now of course, if the object is a group and we move it, I'm going to start using the shortcut, my shortcut keys, which is M. And if I move it here, then I can always move it again. I have no worries. Now if I click on the component and I use the move tool, then you're going to notice pretty much the same thing. I can still move it around and it won't stick. Now the difference with components is that I can edit the component still. So too can I edit the group. So if I wanted to go back and edit this shape, I would have to, the easiest way to do it, I could double click or I could right click and go to edit group. Let's use the double click because that's the most popular method. So I'm going to double click. Now notice when I go into this group, everything else becomes gray, and this is telling me that, hey, now I'm inside this group, and now I'm able to select these individual lines, which are the elements that make up the group. So if I go to my move tool, I can actually manipulate this group like that. Now if I wanted to save this, then the easiest thing for me to do is to use my selection tool and just double click in an open area. And that is how we manipulate a group. Now that I've come out of the group, it's now a single shape again, and I can just move it around as one element. I don't have to worry about the sticky fingers and so forth. Now on the other hand, if we should edit a component, and I'm going to double click this now, just like the group, I'm able to go in and modify these elements. However, the big difference here is that when I modify one element, you notice both elements actually change. Now, if I come out of this component group, then I can still have these separate objects. So I can still move these around and they function as objects. However, you can see that these two objects are actually linked together. So you can think about things like that repeat, like ballistas or columns, and there are many other uses for this feature. You might have a case when you need something to be grouped so that they don't stick together, but in some cases you don't want when one change all of them changes, and in some cases you do want that. So these are the three examples between group and component and just a regular object in SketchUp. All right, so now
Pretty cool, guys. Everybody understand that concept?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. I know Levy understand, but what about Rutan? Which are our messages? You hear Rutan?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
You following? You understand that concept?
Yes, sir. Somewhat, for the most
Somewhat.
part.
All right, cool. Very important going forward in SketchUp. All right, cool. Let us proceed.
Now that we have that example down, we can now start to plan how we want to do these columns. Because I would do these columns as components because it's going to repeat. So in this case, I would draw one of the columns first, and notice that I'm drawing it on the outside because I don't want it to touch this element yet, or else of course it will stick. So I'm gonna highlight this and I'm gonna call this I'm gonna go make component, and I'm gonna call this column. And I'm going to choose create. Then I'm going to use my move tool and just kind of guesstimate. I could say that this is perhaps about like there. And I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V. And what I can do is just hover from this end here slowly, and you will see that I have it aligned. There we go. So maybe this is about there. And I am gonna put another column on this side. So then what I would do is copy these now. So there we go. Then I would now rotate. So I would use the rotate tool here. And the rotate tool can be a little tricky sometimes to use. How it works is that you need to first position the protractor. So the first click is to position the protractor. The next click is to rotate the protractor. So I'm going to rotate it this way. And the third click is to rotate the object according to the protractor. There we go. So you have to do 3 clicks to let the protractor work. Now, there are some additional techniques with the protractor, but we'll touch them as we go along further. All right, so we are going to move this one back here, right? And this is really representing this back one column there, right? All right, so these are all components, and so the idea is when we extrude one, all 3 of them will change. Now you can keep an eye on what these objects are in case you don't remember if this was a group or component. You would find that in your default tray under entity info. So when you expand that, you would see that it says you have a component that's selected. If I selected this object, you would see that it says, you know, you have a face selected. All right. Okay, and the next thing we want to do is figure out what we're going to do for the back. So I would say we would copy these 2 guys. So we're going to select these 2 persons, these 2 items here, and then we're going to copy that. Control C, Control V. There we go, and we're going to just hover here and just use the polar snapping to just get the angles right. Sure. And then I'm going to assume that there will be another piece like this.
What's up?
Yes, sir. It seems to be that my polar snapping is off. How can I turn it on?
I don't. You don't really turn off polar snapping up, but you can turn off snap. So polar snapping can be a little tricky. You have to kind of. So when you have your shape, You have a shape here, so let's make this a group. Right. So when you move it, you have to so you're getting this dash line, right? When you move it.
It's working now, sir. It's working.
Oh, okay, cool. All
What-
right.
How can I have the column equidistant from the center?
You're sketching, man. Don't worry about that, man. You're sketching. You're sketching. Sketch. Cause when you're drawing on your piece of paper, you're not worried about, all them things. All right.
Control C, Control V, and I'm going to copy that maybe over there. All right. Now we have those. We need to extrude this now, and to do that, we're gonna double click so that we can edit this group. But the idea is, because these are all components, we're able to extrude one and extrude all. Now, if this is going to be the height of a floor, then this is probably going to be about this high. About that, we're going to use the selection tool and.
So guys, don't even try to type in a height for those columns. Just use the figure that you have in your SketchUp model and just judge. Just say, it's supposed to be about this high. All right. Remember, we're sketching in 3D.
Double click outside to come back out of that group. All right, great. So we have these columns done now. So now we have to have the base of the building. Now we could copy this base and actually work with it. So let's do that. We're gonna select the base here, and then we're gonna copy it upwards. Now there's a trick to doing a copy in SketchUp. If I go to there's actually a let's go here, and now to copy in SketchUp, what you want to do is, well, first we need to select what we want to copy. Now we have been copying using the Control C, Control V, but we can also copy using the Move tool and holding Control while we move. So in this case, I'm going to grab this corner like this, and here is the trick. In order to copy this going upwards, I would need to orbit so that my view is mainly flat, and that way I am able to, remember to hold Control, I'm able to copy this going upwards like that. So then I would have created the base of this object, which is that element there. So what is left for me to do is for me to extrude this object upwards. And I would say maybe this is about maybe 3 times the height, maybe like that. All right, remember what we're doing is creating a kind of sketch. Now another interesting thing is that the perspective on this shot is a bit different. So in order to allow this to look like this, we would need to adjust the angle of view, and we can do that by going to camera and going to field of view, and we're gonna click, hold, and drag. Now as we drag, you see that we're getting more of a worm's eye view, right? And the building is becoming more skewed, which is a little bit similar to this view here. All right, now the next thing we want to do, so we want to go back to the Move tool, is we want to start to cut this window shape out. So to do that, we're going to use the pencil tool, and we're going to just draw on top of this, and we're going to use the axis to kind of guide us, so we know that we are going vertically down and horizontally across on the X. We're going to do the same thing for here. There we go. There we go. All right.
Sure.
So you hearing me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now. How did you make it skewed?
When you say skewed, what do you mean?
Yeah, I think you said you went up top to select something and you kind of make it look like you change the FOV.
Oh, the frame of view. Oh, right. Yeah, man. If you look in it's on the camera.
Camera.
Sometimes I get these mixed up.
Oh, I
Camera.
see.
No, on the view. No, on the camera. Yeah, man. It's supposed to be on the camera.
Yes, I found it.
Found it? All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
Now that we have that done, we want to probably use the push-pull tool, and we want to hover over this inner section and push this inward, and hover over this section and push this inward. There we go. That looks really similar. Then we want to cut this shape out at the back. So let's try something different. What we can do is use the rectangle tool, and we can actually just draw a rectangle to represent that space there. Think about that. And then we can use the push-pull tool again and just push this inward. Let's just do that twice. Yeah. Alright, and see, that was pretty simple. Now, what I want you guys to do now is try and imagine what happens around here. Because remember, we only sketch what happens here. So I'm going to leave it up to your imagination to kind of do some suggestions for what happens here.
All right, guys. Anybody else following? Anybody else managed to follow as we model this out?
So I'm about to push in the big rectangle on the right side of the wall.
Cool, cool, cool. What about Raheem? How you doing, Raheem? Is Raheem here? It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Matthew?
I'm gonna have to watch your recording because SketchUp is currently installing for me.
Okay. Remember, this is what I'm doing. You can use the web version. Because this is pretty... Everything here is still in the web version. But, that, you know, as we proceed, we're going to go into more advanced things. Anybody else is following in SketchUp? Anybody else? I know Gianna said she was working on her SketchUp. But, nobody don't message anything. What about Carla? Carla? Say again?
I'm getting through fine.
You getting through? Fine?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alright. Alright, no questions.
I'm getting through, sir.
Alright, cool, cool, cool. Alright. Alright, so what I want you to do is just make up around the back before we proceed, just to kind of, because this is what you would do in a real life situation where you have a sketch. You know, maybe your imagination just allow you to imagine one part of the sketch. But now, because you have it in 3D, you kind of spin it around and just stretch your imagination some more. So granted, this is a very weird building, but just, you know, try work with the program a little. All right.
Now, while that is done, we're going to use this opportunity to explore some of the features of SketchUp. Now, when we're using SketchUp, we're going to go to our default tray here, and this time I'm going to pin it. So we haven't really been using this tray, but now we're actually going to start using it. Now I am going to look under, let's first take a look at some features. So if I look under shadows, I'm able to turn on my shadows using that button there. So what I need to do is click it and notice that it's pressed, and then you can see the shadows on my screen. There we go. And I can adjust that shadow by adjusting the time of day. I can even adjust the areas in shade, how bright or dark it should be, and the areas in light. All right. So that is a quick idea of how we get shadows going. Now, the next thing I want us to look on is our materials. Now, you may have some materials that are built into SketchUp. However, the materials that are shown here may not be included in your version of SketchUp. But let's not worry about that. What we're going to do first is just to kind of understand how this material tab works. So, if I take a look at this tab, yes, there are default materials here. There is a preview window here. And when you click on any material or color here, you will see a preview of it here. Now, there are some icons along the side here, but I'm going to ask you to go to this drop down menu that we have here. And what these are categories of materials that we can choose. Now, depending on your version of SketchUp, you may not have all of these categories, but we're going to start with one that we all should have. So we're going to look at the color category. And if I scroll through, you would see quite a bit of colors here. Now, what we're going to do is let's try with some earth tone colors. So I'm going to go for that color there. Now, in order to apply this here, you will need to have the paint brush, the paint bucket tool selected. Now,
sure,
this paint bucket tool works very.
Yeah, man, what's up?
so that's a solid colors, is that one?
Yeah, use the solid colors on your end. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
So you should see all of them there.
Yes, sir.
Very similar to the paint bucket tool in Photoshop. For example, let's color the window here. So let's actually look for like a more blue color, and we're going to fill. There we go. Then we're going to fill this base with a different color. So let's go back to our earth tone colors here. I'm going to choose something a bit light, and I am going to actually, there we go. I'm going to actually just fill these areas in. There we go. Now, I believe this area is actually filled, but what happened is that the sun, I think the sun is a bit too bright. So let me go back to my shadows tool here, and I'm going to adjust the brightness of the sun. Can you see that? So if I made the sun really bright, it basically washes out the color. So I'm going to put it back at about 50%. There we go. All right, let's color the insides. There we go. And let's get another color for the columns that we're doing here. So we're going to go to materials, and there we go. Now, of course, even though these are components, I can still color them differently. However, if I was to go inside one of these groups and then color the material, then what would happen is, let's do an example here. All of them will have the same color, and it would actually override the color that it is given. Because remember, these are components, so the idea is when you apply the color to one, it will apply to all. Alright, so that is just a quick idea of how we add color. Now, texture is pretty much the same thing, so let's go to wood, and I'm going to choose a texture here, and I'll just pick a color, pick the paint bucket tool. Oh, actually it's not applying because I'm still inside the group here, so I need to double click. So use my selection tool and double click. There we go. And now I am able to apply material. Now, as we get a little deeper in applying materials, you might want to change the scale of the material. You might say, well, the scale of this wood is too small, I want to make it bigger. Now, in order to do that, this is when we start to go into the properties of the material. So we'll now need to go over to the edit side of the materials category, and under the edit side you can see a couple options here. Now first, you can see where the texture file is located. You can see where you adjust color, and the scale is adjusted by these two values here. So if we should, well, we're gonna lock this. No, that is locked. And if we increase the size here, so we make it 900 by 900, you will see that the size changes. So let me give you an example. If it was 300, then you will see the size change. So it really changes instantly. Let's try 1500. So you can clearly see now the texture size is much bigger. Now, in addition to changing the materials, you can also create your own material. So let's create our own color. Let's assume, so we're going to go back over to the select, and we're going to go back down to color. Right. So let's assume that none of these colors are colors that you would like. Well, to create your own material color, you are going to go to the, that's that icon right there, and that icon will bring up, well, it's going to bring up whatever material we currently have selected. So we are going to maybe select like white, and then we're going to bring it up. Now it's going to show us a preview of what we have selected, but we can rename this. We can call this Brian's Red, and then we're going to pick a color. There we go. If we wanted to, we could use a texture, but we're just going to choose color for this, and we're going to choose OK. Now if you see that we have a color called Brian's Red, and that color is saved in the model. Now we can simply just apply that color to our object, and that is in a simple way how we add color. Now another really great feature of SketchUp is the ability for it to use styles, right? And this is perhaps one of the hallmarks of using SketchUp. Now, when you go to the Style tab, you'll notice that you are able to select some styles. And just like the Materials tab, you will see, you will have categories of styles. Now, on the default style, we're currently maybe using one of these styles here. Now, to change styles, you simply just click, and you'll notice that these are all various styles that we can use. Now things start to get interesting when you change it to, for example, maybe sketch edges. And if you check out these styles, well, they kind of look like a sketch, which is pretty awesome. You can try the white and black. And you even have some with color. That's right there. If you see like assorted styles, so for example, this is another interesting one here. There we go. This one kind of looks like a marker. And if you check out this category, Style Builder Competition Winners, and you must be saying, wait a minute, you can actually build these from scratch, right? These are styles that this person has built and they got featured in SketchUp. So if you want to now build your own style, well, to do that, you're going to use the Edit tab. So to see how this works, let's go back to default and let's put back our model on the first one, which is pretty much the default that SketchUp starts with. Now when you go over to the edit, notice these main categories here. So the idea is that you would, in each of these categories, you would edit, and the full combination of editing each one of these creates your own style, right? So let's check that out. So if I go to the first option here, it's all about edges, and I want you to look at these edges now as we change this. So we can, for example, say no edges, and if you notice, there are no internal edges, no profiles. Now you see there's no profiles there. We can turn on edges. We can turn on back faces. You can kind of see the little dash lines there for the back faces. Then you can turn on profiles, and profiles gives the bounding outline a particular thickness, and you can actually increase this thickness. Let's put it to 7. Here we go. So you can see a kind of a thick outline there. Depth Q kind of adds the line changes depending on how far it is. Then we have the extension. This one is pretty cool. Let's put that to 7. What that does, to make you see it, let's put it to 50. There we go. It creates these extensions. You have endpoints, which kind of adds a little kind of bulb to the end. And then you have jitter, which is, it basically allows the lines to look a bit more sketchy, as you can see here. So you can come, and all of these options are just about lines, and of course you can change the color. Now the next thing is the face settings, and each one of these has its own settings as well. So when we go to the face setting, we can say what is the front and the back face. Now, as you can see, this face has materials because we actually applied materials. So the option that we select here, it is shaded faces. But if we should select wireframe, then you would only get the wireframe. It can be white. And then when the faces are white, all faces would be determined by this color. So if I put this to like red, blue, well, we see where that comes in a bit further down. But this is where all faces are practically monochromatic. And here we show all the faces here. Now these faces have material, that's why you're not really seeing these material come through. But notice that you're seeing this base here change to blue, and that's because we actually did not apply a material to the blue. So if we didn't apply material here, it would get these default colors. Once we turn on this option,
so how do I pick off this style?
Just choose the default style.
How?
Or you take off the style, so you just go back to where is it? Right. In the default tree. Right here. Just go back to
Yes,
just go back and choose the default style. Yeah. Alright.
Yes, sir.
option here, notice that it now shows texture. So this only shows color, and then that shows texture. Right. And of course this makes it all the same color based on what we select. And then X-ray mode pretty much allows it to be semi-transparent, and you can combine that with any one of these modes. So you can just imagine the kind of variety that you can get. Then we want to speak about the backgrounds. Now currently the sky has a kind of a gradient, and the ground, well, we can we can adjust what the ground should be. We can also adjust the background here, but right now we have the sky that's there. So if we didn't have the sky, then we would have just this background here. There we go. If we didn't have the ground, then we would have what we have here. So we're going to leave it on the ground. And that is essentially what this area does. Now watermarks is what we're actually going to use to complete the assignment 1. And the idea of a watermark is that you apply an image that can really help you to align this image. Now we're gonna look at watermarks when we start to look more at compositing, meaning mixing an image, a 3D image, with a actual photo. So we're going to look at that when we're looking at the compositing topic. And then these are all modeling settings. So for example, do you want to show geometry that is hidden? When you select an object, what color do you want it to be? You know, this is really how it looks while you're working on it. Now, if we go over to mix, what mix is, it's kind of a way, if you, for example, liked a particular style, let's say that for sketchy lines, you love the way how this line looked. Well, what you can do is actually drag this and drop it over the edge lines. And what you will do is absorb the line from this style. So you can actually grab, so let's look at another one here. Let's say that you love the way how the background look here. Well, what you can do is drag this image over background, and then it will grab whatever, however it was used in this image here. So that's an interesting way that you can actually mix the styles together. Now, if you like what you've done here, then you can actually save your style. So I could call this BDW style. There we go. And that way I can come back to it anytime. So that was a real quick look at how we can model elements in SketchUp and just simply model from a sketched image. Really simple, really intuitive, and how we can use styles to really enhance our drawing here.
All right. So what do you guys think?
Pretty cool, sir.
Yeah. I must admit for myself that so that you guys don't make the same mistake I made. I don't think we got introduced to SketchUp. I think maybe we got introduced to SketchUp in like 3rd year or something. So we're doing it earlier now. But after I got introduced to SketchUp, I was like, oh cool, this program is so cool. But then a lot of people like it because it's easy. It's easy to learn. And if you remember when we had the class a couple weeks ago, pre-Melissa, we saw a similarity between how vectors are done in Illustrator and how the same approach is applied in SketchUp. You remember when we were drawing the letter E and we use the pen tool, and then we use the same pen tool in SketchUp, but the only difference is in SketchUp we can actually rotate our canvas in complete 3D, whereas in Illustrator we're stuck in 2D all the time, right? So SketchUp really allows us to break that 3rd dimension. So as I was saying about not making the same mistake I made, like I love 3D and all this stuff, so I kind of jumped to like more complicated programs because I was just like, SketchUp is too simple and I need more power, more options and more buttons. And I think like even at this stage in my career, I've made a full circle, because after a while you start to realize that Just because something is more complicated don't mean it's more efficient, right? So what I've come to realize is that for architecture, right, when it comes to concept sketching, like what we just did, when it comes to schematic design, concept design, this is the early part of your design. When you're just trying to get an idea out, you're trying to explore forms and heights and widths and areas. The simplicity of SketchUp just makes it hands down the best tool. Then when you need to show you an early version of your idea, you throw what you did in layout, you print it, and bam, you have a sheet. So what I think is that, you know, most people move on to other software because they say, SketchUp is too simple. I kind of overcomplicate their life a little bit. At least for the conceptualization part of your process. When you get to more advanced stuff, like, you know, like maybe you're doing some stuff for marketing, so it needs to look more real and it needs to have more complicated models, then that's different. Definitely you won't be using SketchUp. Or let's say that, okay, you've finished with your conceptualization, now it's time to actually start the work. I need to pump out floor plans, elevations, sections. Yeah, man, now you need to jump into a Revit or an ArchiCAD or a AutoCAD if you're kind of old school, but you jump into an architectural program to do that. So SketchUp isn't going to replace your Revit and those things. And I would argue that you can even use SketchUp and then jump over to Twinmotion, Lumion, V-Ray, all these fancy rendering programs. You can let it work with SketchUp just the same. But the area that SketchUp really shines the most and where you guys need to invest in is early design, conceptualization, concept sketching, exploring forms. SketchUp is going to be the main thing that you want to try and invest in to learning really good. And you choose the limits of when it's time to know, okay, I've done with this part of my production, now I need to go to, you know, producing the drawings or whatever. So you guys are in second year now, but as you go further, when it's time for crit, you're going to realize that there's a time when you say, all right, I need to produce floor plans and elevations now. And you need some time, for some of you that may be SketchUp. I've seen persons gone all the way in SketchUp. But most people, what my best advice is that for early design, use SketchUp to explore, and then you transition to something like Revit that has more architectural focused tools. All right. So before we go to the final segment of our class today, I want to throw a quick thing out there. Those who have their SketchUp up and running, show me a thumbs up. Anybody? I know that Levy have it. I know that Carla have it. Tara, I think. All right, cool.
So are you talking about the web version or?
It can be the web version, don't matter. Anyone. All right, some away, most away. All right, Gianna, good. All right, so here's what I want us to do, guys. Well, about 9 minutes, right? Let me show you something on the screen here now. Let's bring up this. So let's have a little friendly competition, right? So I have 3 sketches here. 3 little very stupid hand sketches I did in like 2 seconds, right? No, I didn't do it, but it was done in like 2 seconds. So it's very rough. You know, something like, you know, like when you're having a conversation with somebody, maybe a desperate, and you just want to quickly show an idea. That kind of rough sketch. So with those of you who have SketchUp ready, what I want you to do, I want you to model this. First person done, just send a screenshot in the chat. All right? You can pick anyone. I have 3 sketches here. You can pick anyone, right?
This is not as easy as the one before, meaning it's easy, but it's not. What we did a while ago was pretty straightforward. The sketch was very clear. It was almost like that sketch was, you know, like when you properly do a sketch, that's what you guys just did. But in reality, when you're just kind of whipping up something quick just to show an idea, it's usually a bit more rough. So I want us to now do a quick 3D sketch from me in SketchUp, right? So I want you to go to File, go to New. So let's get rolling. I want you to go to. Can I put this in this corner? Can we see both pictures? Maybe. Yeah. All right. Cool. So we have it here. Give it some more space. Cool. All right. So what I want you to do is to open up your SketchUp. All right. So I see I have my SketchUp right here. I'm going to just minimize this because I don't need that. SketchUp right here. All right. And so we're going to go to File, go to New. So we have a blank SketchUp. Doesn't matter the units, guys, because we're sketching, right? All right. All right. I have a cool 3D mouse here, which is pretty cool. I'll show you one of these days, but I'm not going to use it. All right. I'm going to use mouse and keyboard like everybody else. All right. Now, what I want us to do is I want us to whip up this sketch very quickly. All right. All right. Ready? In 3, in 2, and 1. Everybody ready? Yes?
Yes, sir.
And go. Pick anyone you want. Very rough sketches here, guys. Anyone you want. I want you to just whip up what you think this sketch is. I mean, obviously it looks like some kind of a tower, but don't bust your brain too much on it. Remember, it's a sketch. All right, guys? It's not supposed to be, you know, we're not worried about dimensions and all of these things. All right, so I want you to just kind of whip that up. All right, I'm going to also do the same. All right, but I'm not really in the competition. I'm just building. No, why am I building? Then you're seeing what I'm doing. I don't want to show you. I'll put it over here. All right, you guys come up with your own thing. All right, I will build mine over here. All right, guys, 2 minutes. Not done yet? Just make up stuff, guys. Just make up stuff. It's a sketch. It's not supposed to be logical. Any one of them you want to do. It needs to kind of look like it still. All right? Who done? Nobody? Yeah, now what's happening? You're not done yet?
No, sir.
No? Remember, it's a sketch. We're just dealing with proportions. That's really all we're worried about. We're just worried about proportions. That's it. Just massing. Don't even worry about any details or anything like that. We're just exploring massing. Come on, guys. It's supposed to be done already. It's like a box. Tara, what's happening? You're not done yet?
Sir, I don't have a mouse, so I'm using the
touchpad
on my laptop. So I am. This progress is painfully slow.
Yeah, man, you're handicapped.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All the better. You should done first and then put everybody to shame. All right.
Sir, I have some.
You have something? All right. drop a screenshot. Make it, you know, put it to the same like angle of you know, make it kind of look like it. Let's drop it in the chat. All right. Oh, look like Ryan beat it to the punch. All right. First submission of the night is Raheem. All right. That is Raheem's sketch. Let's see who if anybody tapped that. Gianna, where your screenshot? All right, cool. Cool. I see yours. I see it. All right. Where's everybody else? Oh, hold on. I can't put
Couple seconds, sir. Couple seconds.
Couple seconds. All right.
I finished. I will submit now.
Screenshot in the chat.
Okay.
How the trackpad treating you?
Painful, sir. Painful.
Everybody tackle the same one. Okay.
Which one is that one? Oh, that one?
The one on the right.
No, sir, I did a different one. But...
Yeah, different one. All right, cool.
Okay, so there's mine.
All right, cool. Got you. All right, Tara. While you submit. Okay. So I have 3 concepts here, right? I also modeled it as well, right? And let's assume that this took, the last person to submit was Levy, right? So let's assume that this took 3 minutes, right?
No, please.
No, man, you can still drop the screenshot, man. It's fine.
No, sir, I have like multiple drawings in this one file. It's just like my practice file.
Oh, okay.
I end up making the whole drawing on top of a building that I was already practicing on. This is so painful. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, man.
I touch up mine a bit, you know, sir. You can use a new one.
No, yeah, we already have it, man.
I just deleted those lines in the middle.
No, that's fine. Oh, in the middle. All right, well, that's fine. All right, so this is my own here, so right, and let me try to put it to one side here. Okay, so this is something that I would say you would try and practice, because I think what happened is that sometimes the students will fall into the trap of, you know, the software trap. So we have something to produce, and sometimes we might choose a complicated software to do it, right? When you're trying to figure out something or explore a concept, you definitely want to choose the simplest method to do that, right? Even if it's not SketchUp, hand drawing is probably even quicker, right? The reason I'm telling you to learn SketchUp is because you can sketch 3D faster than, you can sketch 3D in SketchUp faster than you can sketch it with your hands, right? And you don't even have to be like a SketchUp master to do that. It's just understanding little nuances of it, right? So I'm gonna put this over here, and I'm gonna put this sketch over here. So now let's say that you did squiggle up this sketch. There used to be a guy in our class who used to call him Wiggles. And the reason you can just drop the, what is it, Tara?
I'm just gonna screenshot my screen, and I'm gonna save Just gonna screenshot and drop it in.
Sure, no matter. It's just a sketch, man. It's like something in your sketchbook.
Sir,
Yeah.
I did the first one.
Yeah,
Well,
man. Drop it. Oh, I see it. Cool. No problem.
Yeah.
I see it here. Yep. I see it there. Cool. Right. So what I was saying is that, oh right, I was telling you about a classmate called Wiggles because he was really good at doing these kind of sketches. We call it, you know, with the wiggle up sketches, so we end up calling him Wiggles. Yes, I see it. There it is. Tara, I see it. Right. So whenever you have these wiggle up sketches, and maybe for you guys to do a sketch like this probably took you 30 seconds to do one of this without like a pencil or pen, is done, right? It should take the same amount of time in SketchUp. The key is that to try to not overthink it too much, right? So let's look on this second one here. Was it I think it was Levy that did this second one. So the first thing to recognize is always break down what you're sketching in shapes and then make the shapes proportional. So right away when I look on this, I see some that's a little skinny. Make this bigger. Right. Let's make this a little smaller. Smaller. Right. So let's say I'm looking on this one. So the first thing I see a box here. Right. Forgive me, I'm drawing with the mouse. This looks like a box. I see some business at the top, so I see some kind of double line at the top. But for now, it's just a box. Let me just draw it a little less ugly. And then below, I see another box that do this fancy thing. But really and truly, this is just a box too. Everybody see that? Just a box. So if I was exploring this concept, the first thing I'd want to do is identify the main, what's the word again? It escapes me. Primitive, right. I identify the main primitives. Triangle, circle, sphere, diamond, those are primitives. They are like basic shapes. So these are just two boxes. So the first thing I would do is, right, so let me delete that. So the first thing I would do, I would draw this box, then that box. So the first box, I'm going to just start drawing it here. Now I don't know the size of it. Maybe it's this big. And I'm going to use my push-pull tool, but the height is important because if this is the height of a person, maybe this is 1 story, could be 2 story. I'm going to estimate it at 1 story. So maybe it's like that. I am going to just leave it at that. Then this thing here is another box, right? And what I would try and do, first thing I would do, I would double click this and I would turn it into a group. Why would I turn it into a group? Who can tell me?
Sure, so you can attach it to a next block without distorting it whenever you decide to move it.
Right, I think I know what you're saying, but you can just say the word sticky fingers. You don't want to model something and it's stuck to it, right? So this box is here, and then there's another box. Now, what I would do is I'm just going to use the rectangle tool. Notice I use a lot of the rectangle tool. I don't know where this is in relation to this, but let's just assume that it's somewhere down here, right? So I can even draw this box even separate, or I can just assume that it's on top of this box here. Don't really matter. At the end of the day, this is a box, and I'm gonna extrude it just the same. Now, how far am I going to extrude it? I don't know yet, but based on the proportion of this to this and this to up here, so. And the trick is that I want to use the same kind of view as my sketch, because that is how we perceive things in 3D. So usually I would want to go and mess around with my field of view, and I want to make it like the same kind of thing. Well, it's a little weird because I have, let me try it, dude. carry this over some more. Yeah, so that is not tool. Yeah. So I would try to get the same kind of field of view like what I have here. In this case, this is more down. Now, what you can do in SketchUp sometime, because you're going to get this weird perspective, you can go to view to camera and you can turn on 2-point perspective and down. So that way it keep everything vertical, like, you know, just 2-point. And then, so once the views are similar, it's like it's easy for your imagination to now build on top of this. So, you know, say, all right, this thing cut out somewhere in the middle. So what I would do, I would grab my pen tool. Actually, this is even a bit more skinny, or this is taller, one of them. So I'm going to use my push-pull tool and kind of push this in. Maybe push this in some more. So it's looking a bit more skinny like this. This guy here needs to come more to the front. So I'm just using the view that I have here, right? Now, I might have to orbit it a little bit. And I'm going to have to reveal this new feature for now, but I will explore, I will expand on it in a little bit, right? So what I would do when I get the view right, I would save a scene. So to do that, I'm going to go to my default tray here, and I'm going to go down. So all of these things here, I'm going to go down to scene. I'm going to click the plus. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm going to explain a little later. So what that do, it save my view. So let's say that I turn around the building and I do all kind of things. I can just click back this button here and it gives me back my exact same view. It's easy for me to do a sketch of my sketch when I'm working with the same view. So if I look at this section here, this section is a little bit shorter. So I say, oh, so this is supposed to really cut off about here. So let me just rotate this real quick. And let me just push pull this maybe somewhere up here. So don't worry about all of this stuff yet. Let me click back my scene. Carry it up some more. Click back my scene. Oh, this one got down. This part here want to go in some more. Something like that. And then notice I can see the back part of my building in the background. So let me go to this guy here. So and just push pull this down to here. All right, so let me go here. All right, guys, is it looking more similar? Guys, you following me?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, the only secret to this is that I'm trying to build it while making it look similar to my sketch. All right, so this part here, so now all I need to do is maybe take my pen tool now, cut across here, maybe like that. But you see, before you start to add detail, you want to make sure you get the massing nice. So I think this is a little shorter. So I'm gonna just push pull this up some more. And I think here, so I'm going to just push this over some more. So yeah, now it's looking a little bit more similar. All right, so I'm just going to use my pencil tool now. And I'm just going to drag this over like that. And I think there's a point here, something in the middle. And maybe there's a point here, I don't know, I'm just making it up. Then I'm going to click this point and just use my move tool and move this back, right? And move it back to like maybe, I don't know, here. I'm sticking on the x-axis. Now this is a little fat here, so I still need to carry this back some more. So I'm going to use my push-pull tool and carry it back somewhere. Go back to my view here. Right, now what you realize, guys, it's very, like if I wasn't in the same view, it would be hard for me to even estimate what is happening. The secret is that you want to be in a similar view to your original. Because this drawing that you did here is based on your imagination. You know what I mean? And when you are having an imagination thought, it not really, like, it's not bounded by logics too tough. You know what I mean? It's just your imagination. But when you are in SketchUp, you're kind of bounded by logic. You're starting to say, oh, how high is this? And hold on, how far is this from here? And how tall is it? Like, you know, but when you are in your head doing this sketch, your brain wasn't doing all that stuff, right? So at this point, you're basically done. Now, what I was saying earlier is that now that you have produced this in 3D, you are now free to now add on top of this. You have achieved what you imagined first, and then you start to add to it. So maybe you say, no, all right.
Put first a Bible.
Well,
sorry, sir. I sing music. Sorry.
oh, right. So maybe you want to expand this here, and maybe you know you're going to start exploring. Let me use the offset tool. Maybe you want to explore some kind of interesting element here that do some fancy push pull, and you know what I mean. And then, so what you're trying to do now is you're trying to now build on top of this. And as I said, sky's the limit with this, guys. You can just go to town with just exploring all sort of ideas, but you can only do this once you have it in 3D. When you're stuck here in this sketch, you know, you're kind of stuck with it. So my advice is that once you have your chicken scratch sketch like this, recreate this exact chicken scratch sketch quickly in SketchUp, and then play with it. Push and pull it and play with it until you get what you want. Oh crap, that took a little longer than I assumed. All right, guys, you followed me a while ago?
Yes, sir.
All right, so what I want to touch on now is the part 2 of what we're talking about, and this is particularly linked to the assignment, right? So we're going to push things even a little further now in SketchUp. How do we now combine SketchUp with other programs? Like, how do we get something, put it in Photoshop, make it look nicer? So that is the other half of what we're going to look on today. And we might have to go through it a little quicker because I think we kind of got lost in the whole sketch thing a little too long. Totally my bad.
Okay, welcome to another.
So we're going to look on this here. And we're going to talk a little bit about compositing with SketchUp, right?
Okay, welcome to another practical session.
All right, now in SketchUp, oops, this one, right?
Okay,
so in SketchUp, we can save images out of SketchUp and put in into other programs. And that is what we're going to do for our next assignment. I'm just looking for it here. Here we go. Full screen. Full screen. Yeah. Right. So this is what we're going to be doing. Really cool. Right? Now, don't look at the logics of it just yet. It's not about, we're not trying to do things a little too logical. We put in a cabin out in the water, right? Nobody asks any question. Don't ask me about climate. We're doing it because we're going to learn how to do some techniques in SketchUp, right? So the interesting thing about this image is that this image came from SketchUp, right? The background is just an arbitrary background, and then this boat was just a entourage. And we put everything together. There's some reflections and water ripples and stuff like that. And all of this was put together, and this is what we call compositing. So we model something in SketchUp, and then we combine it with an image, right? So in order to do that, the first thing we're going to do is model this building, which is the cool part. Now we are going to be using the same solid modeling that we did before. We're going to be doing it by, I would say, 70% by measurement, and the rest is just you make it up in your head. All right, the overall dimensions you will have, but you're going to add your own little creativity to it. So there are some dimensions here. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to take our image and place it in a photo. No, you choose the photo that you choose it from a list of photos that I give you, and you're gonna place your image in the photo. I'm gonna show you how to do that using SketchUp. And the last thing we're gonna do is that we're gonna put everything together. We're gonna this plan that you see here was drawn in no, sorry, not in Illustrator. Where is it? Oh, right. This plan that you see here was done in SketchUp, right? That's this plan that you see here. The side view, the front view, and the section. Remember, guys, we did this already with the Lego block. We're gonna be doing it with a much more exciting model now. Along with the image that we created in Photoshop, we're gonna put all of it together on a sheet, and this is in layout. And that is the 3-step process that we plan to do. So the first thing, we're going to model this building, we're going to do some photoshopping, and then we're going to put everything together in layout. So that's going to be really cool. All right, and we have a couple of weeks to do this. So I even have some tips. I made a little cheat sheet for those of you that might have some trouble modeling this. It looks simple, but you know, it have some angles to it, which can be tricky. It's intentionally made that way to be a little tricky, guys, so that you guys get used to modeling. So what I want to talk about is how do we get our image from SketchUp into Photoshop to start, you know, doing some nice stuff with it, right? And that is the other half that I wanted to speak about now, right? All right, so now I'm going to be choosing some different images, and the link to select the images are on the handout. It will link to a folder like this. I'm gonna pick one image.
Let's look at entourage components.
I'm gonna pick one image
look
to
in the
do my
background
example
folder.
with. You guys don't have to select
And
the
from
same
this
image as
folder,
me.
you can see
When you're doing this assignment, you have to choose an image of which from what
you
you're
can
given,
see the different
right? You can't
background
just
options
pick
that
a random
we
image. You will
currently
lose
have.
marks if you do that, guys. Please.
So
you're
we
to
are
pick
gonna choose,
one
let's
from
see
these
this one here.
images.
This
right?
one here looks pretty good.
So in my example,
if we folder that
am gonna
has
choose
these in a way that
this
works with these, or for example,
no, this one.
You know, look
Right.
at how you're,
I'm hearing two
or
voices.
for
I'm not
example,
really hearing.
you know, look at the perspective line.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I didn't hear anything you said clearly a while ago.
All right. So I'm going to choose this one. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not hearing.
No, it stopped.
It's
right now.
yeah, I stopped it. Okay.
But you said not to
Have
do
a
something, not to do what?
Why am I not hearing this anymore? Anyway, I was saying that for the assignment, you're to only choose from the images that is given to you, right? You can't just pick an image from Google and say, I'm going to use this picture and put my building in it for my assignment. No, you lose marks. Have to choose one of the pictures. So in this quick demonstration, I am going to choose this picture. You don't have to choose this one. You can choose another one. All right. All right. Now I just have to figure out why my audio stopped.
It's paused.
Oh, hold on. I think yeah. My hand caught the mute button on my speaker. All right, cool. So let's go.
Particular view.
I'm not hearing
so
it.
that you can determine how your building will be aligned. So for example, if you were to put your building over here, you know, look at the lines of the dock, and perhaps you know, your building would perhaps be aligned, something to that effect, you know. So you're gonna need to look at these lines here, and there are quite a bit of images, so you can select the one that best suits you. But remember, you need to have reflections, you need to have an entourage, whether it's a boat or a person, and the perspective needs to be aligned correctly. I'm going to select this image here, so I'm going to download this image. And this is what it looks like. And I am planning to place my building perhaps somewhere about here in this image. So when you're selecting an image, you know, just kind of picture where your building would be. All right, now the next thing that we want to do is, let's go back to SketchUp, and the first thing we need to do is to align our building to the background. Now how you do that is you need to head over to,
so before I continue, obviously here I have the building built already. So this demonstration that I'm giving you is what do you do after you build the building. All right, so you're just, this is a point to note.
You need to head over to styles, and then you're going to go to edit, then head over to background, watermark, and you're going to click the plus to add a new watermark. Now you're going to look for where you downloaded the image, so here it is, and that watermark should just pop in our scene, and it should be semi-transparent, right? So notice it says you can do an overlay or a background. That's a background, so let's leave it on background and choose next, and we're gonna just leave this as is, choose finish, stretch to fit screen. You're going to lock aspect ratio, ensure that you do that, and you're going to choose finish. So now what you're going to do is angle your building so that it lines up with the image, and you're going to do that by panning and zooming and just kind of getting the image just right. Now you also have to watch your perspective, because this image has, you know, the perspective is a little bit wider, I think. So I would go to view and camera, and go to field of view, and I'm able to just kind of change my perspective a little bit to better match the image here. Kind of push it up a little bit, and you can kind of see, look at how your lines are aligned to the image. You can use that to help determine how it would be. Now you can additionally decide to put your building on the opposite side here. Let's kind of orient that a little bit. Now once you have your building roughly in place, you are gonna create a camera. Let's give another image a swing here, because some of you might choose another image that is a bit more challenging to align. This one is not so bad. Yes, let's look at this one here. So I'm going to download this image again, right? And I'm going to go back to SketchUp, and this time I'm going to choose a little minus there, so I'm going to delete in that background. I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to add this new background, and I'm going to do the same things that I did just now, where I'm going to go next and next and next, and there we go. Oops, actually I put it on blend. Let's edit that. I think we can edit that. Okay, let's remove it again and add it back. There we go. Yeah, we want to change this to background, right? So that it's in our background. There we go. So in this case, this one is a little more tricky to align. So remember, I was saying to watch your perspective lines. So if I do this like this, you would see that, okay, this is kind of okay. It perhaps want to come a little bit more that way. Then it perhaps wants to get a little bigger. So we're gonna zoom in a bit. Now, when you're doing this, remember that this is a flat image. So let's assume that we wanted to put the boathouse on this side beside the boat, right? So we want to do something like this. You know, let's say we want to do something like that. Well, of course, we're not able to put the house behind the boat because the boat is actually a part of the image. So what we have to do is we have to kind of imagine what it would look like behind the boat. And then we're gonna do that manipulation when we go in SketchUp. So maybe it would need to be a little smaller, not too small. You can also switch over to you can also switch your view to X-ray. Not X-ray necessarily, but more, let's go to wireframe. There we go. So wireframe will kind of give you a better idea, you know, because you can see where the lines are lining up. So let's assume that we wanted to put it kind of something like that. Remember, you got to kind of ignore the boat in this case. I think that would be about it. Now, before you do anything, you want to save this view because you might spend some time trying to align this thing and you don't want to accidentally move the mouse. So we're going to save this view, we're going to go to camera. Well, we're going to go to camera and go to toolbars, and we want to turn on a toolbar called Advanced Camera.
Now, what I would say, the difference here is that I wouldn't, with the newer versions of SketchUp, I wouldn't necessarily use the camera view. I think it's a little bit over complex. What I would do in this case, hold on, oh, you're hearing me, right, guys? Am I muted? Wait, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. All right, cool. Right. So what I was saying is that, where's my SketchUp? Did it crash? There it is. Okay. I think it kind of crashed. Hold on, give me a second. Right, here we go. All right, so let's say that you have your view like this, and which background did I choose again? Go to the handout here. Link to assignment files. So this is where you go to find the backgrounds. Just click the link to assignment files and backgrounds, and here we go. All right, it was this one, right? So let me download that one. Cool. All right, so bring out my tools there. Right, so what I was saying is that when you go to styles and you go to backgrounds where it says watermark,
and you bring in your watermark. So let me go down to here, this one. Right. Want to do it background, so background will make sure it's behind the model, and want to make sure you lock the aspect ratio, guys, so that the image isn't stretched. Right. So what I was saying is, when you put it to wireframe mode, so you go to view, base style, wireframe, or you can go X-ray, whichever one. I like wireframe. And you kind of align your view. So remember, you have to pan around a little bit, look at your lines. Then you probably also need to adjust your field of view a little bit. So you want it to be somewhat parallel. I think that is about it. Now, in my case, this is going behind the boat. So I'm going to ignore the boat. So it's if it's going to go behind the boat, it would have to be somewhere up here. So, but because it's further, I might have to be adjusting the field of view a little bit. Oh, I'm still in the field of view. So maybe like this, zoom out a little bit to make it smaller, then pan, then orbit. You know, you trust me, you're going to be like doing this for a little while. You'll soon get the hang of it, right? But this is just aligning the picture to match. Right. Now to save this, guys, you're going to go to scenes, and then all you do, you click the little plus. Let me minimize this so you can see good. These are different scenes. So you click the plus, and you want to save a new scene. It will ask if you want to save the style. You can say you can save it as a new style, doesn't matter. And notice this save now as scene 4. Now you can name this scene. There's a little preview there. And the reason why you do this is because let's say that you move this and you're doing other things, you can just double click here or here and it comes back to this view. All right, guys, so that's the important thing. So scenes is what we're gonna use to get this part done. All right. All right, let's continue.
Then you lock it again. All right, now once it's locked, I can move around and do other things that I want to do. So if, for example, you wanted to position maybe a person or make some edits to your building, you can go ahead and do that and not have to worry that you're moving your view.
Right. In this case, what I did here, I'm using the camera instead of scenes, but I think scenes is just way more simpler to use than camera. So that's why I'm suggesting you use the scenes feature, guys. All right.
There we go. Now the next thing that we want to do is we don't want to export this building with this kind of cartoon style. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually further edit this visual style. So we're going to go to edit, and we are going to go to edges, and we're going to actually turn off edges and profiles. So that will give us a little bit closer to a realistic look. Now remember that we're actually editing our style here. I've actually renamed my style to Landscape Architecture Style 3, but I'm actually modifying this style even further. So I would need to, well, the styles are automatically saved. So every time I go back to this style, it will load back everything. Actually, it's not fully automatic. You do have to update the style. So for example, if I turn on my edges and I want to update this new style now, I need to click this button here, and now my style is updated. If I want to turn off, if I want to make any kind of modification, I need to always update this style. Now you can know that your style is saved because if I go back to select styles and I select a totally different style like that, I can go back to my landscape architectural style 3 and everything should load back as how I had it. Right? So you save your camera, you save your styles, because you might want to come back to make some modifications and go back into Photoshop again. Now, our next thing you want to do is to also adjust your shadows. Right? Now, to do that, you're going to go over to shadows. There we go. Let's minimize styles. And when you go over to shadows, you might notice that if you want to get a different angle. Alright, so notice that in my case the shadows are going this way, and I want to just kind of carry it down a little more. Let's make it a little longer that way. I think that is good. Let's carry it back a little bit. There we go. So I am liking those shadows. I can also set, you know, like the darkness of the shadows and so forth. Now you might realize that you are not really going to get shadows to look really realistic in SketchUp. So we're going to have to make some modifications when we go over to the Photoshop side. But at minimum, you should be able to extract your shadows, no problem. All right. So now that we have these things complete, we definitely would want to save our file. So I'm going to call it assignment 1 comp, short for composition. And now what I'm going to want to do now is to take this into Photoshop to do some more work. Now to do that, I'm going to want to save this but without the image. Right, that's a key thing. I don't want the background in here necessarily. I rather have a transparent image, and then I can always modify the background in Photoshop. So to get out this image, first I'm going to actually turn off shadows because I don't want the shadows right off the bat. I'm going to come back for the shadows later. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export 2D Graphic, and I'm going to export this, and I'm going to use this folder here, and I'm going to export this as a
now this is the part, guys, that where you need the pro version, because the regular SketchUp won't give you the PNG option. And do you remember what's the advantage of using a PNG file? Anybody?
Yes, sir. The background is transparent.
Exactly. And you won't get this option on the web version or the if you have the free version, the SketchUp Make, it doesn't have that either. It has to be the pro version. Oh, my bad.
Before I can get a transparent background, I actually need to turn off my background because I don't want my background from SketchUp. So let me cancel that and go back into Styles and Edit, and I'm gonna go over to Background, to Watermark. Right, there we go. And I'm actually gonna delete this. Now I can always get back my style if I want, so it doesn't necessarily matter.
I almost think in the newer version of SketchUp, you don't have to delete your background. I can't remember. Anyway, the safe thing to do is just turn off your background or remove it before you export, because we don't want the background with the building, because we're going to put the background in Photoshop. All right, we just use the background in SketchUp to align the building and save it, and then when we exporting the image from SketchUp, no, we don't want the background in there, definitely.
And I mean, it doesn't matter what the color of the background is. you just want to ensure that your background is plain. I would go with a, I don't think it should matter, but let's see, let's just leave the background as is. And then we're going to go to export 2D graphic again, but this time we're going to ensure that we choose PNG, and then under options we're going to make sure we choose transparent background. All right, and then we're going to choose OK and export. And we're going to wait for SketchUp to generate this image. All right, now when you see the image is supposed to look like this. So there's nothing else in this scene but the background. Let's zoom in here. So that's a nice image there. And we're gonna now work some magic in Photoshop. Okay, now once you have Photoshop open, this time what we're going to do is we are actually going to open our background first in Photoshop. So we're going to go to File, Open, and we're going to find where we had that background. So I'm going to go to Downloads, and that's the background that we got. Now it's important to open the background first, because the idea is that the background is going to be already aligned for us to the foreground. So now once the background is in, notice it comes in on a layer called background, and I'm actually using my layout for my workspace layout for DDM that we created early on in the course, right? So this is why this is what my workspace looks like. Now the first thing we want to do, we want to not use this as a background layer. We want to have this as a regular layer. So we're going to right click that and go to layer from background, and what that's going to do is turn it into a layer. So we're going to call this BG for background. All right, there we go. Now that it is a background, now what we want to do next is we want to drag our image that we created, or we're going to place it over it. We can use the place command. So we're going to go to place embed, right? For those of you who have a different version of Photoshop, you'll just get one place option. Doesn't really matter. So we're going to choose place embedded, and we're going to browse to where we have that image. Now this should drop exactly in position, or roughly in the same position, and then we are going to choose the OK button here. Now you could also drag your image in, doesn't necessarily matter. And once the image is in, notice it's going to come in as a smart object, and you know that because it has the smart object symbol that we saw from the early days. That's that little smart object signal there. But if you remember that the smart object is a layer, the smart layer is a layer that cannot be modified. So we don't want that. We want to be able to erase and do all kinds of stuff. So we're going to right click that, and we're going to say rasterize layer. So now we're able to edit that layer. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need our shadows to come in to this composition. And a clever way that we can get that done is we could either save an image with the shadow, or we could guesstimate where the shadow would be, right? So those are your options. Now, if you're feeling confident about drawing your own shadow, then by all means, you would create a new layer. And we'll call that layer shadow. And with the layer called shadow, what you're going to do is you would now use your, there we go, our polygonal tool, polygonal lasso tool. Make sure that you're on the shadow layer, and we're going to actually just kind of draw in a, kind of a rough shadow here, kind of like that, and we're just going to do like that. There we go. Then we're going to fill this with black, so ensure that your paint is set to black, and you're going to go to the paint bucket and fill. All right, next we need to actually deselect, so we're going to switch back to lasso tool, right click and deselect. Now we need to put the shadow layer behind that layer, and there we have our shadow. And of course we can adjust the opacity of this shadow here. There we go. Now if you're not feeling confident about drawing your own shadow, you could save out an image that has the shadow from SketchUp and then use that as a base to trace out the shadow, and then you can just delete that layer. But I'm pretty sure you guys should be able to confidently be able to trace out a shadow. All right, good. So I'm going to, now what we need to do, we obviously need to deal with this boat. The fact that this boat is actually, the building is obscuring the boat, but it should be the other way around. So let's turn off our shadow and turn off our building. Now for those of you who might have objects that are supposed to obscure your rendering, or rather your 3D model, you're going to need to cut out that object and put it on a layer above. So in this case, the boat is doing that. So I'm going to actually cut out the boat. And I don't really need to cut out every aspect of the boat. So I'm using the polygonal lasso tool. And where it's getting too small, I'm actually going to use the plus button to kind of zoom in a little bit here.
Yeah, basically we're just going to be cutting out this boat, right? So guys, you I think by now you would remember how to cut this out. It's just like what we did in the other assignments, right? Where you just carefully choose the different areas around the boat and cut it out. All right.
Special and go to paste in place. That's important, because when I do that, I'm actually just pasting a picture of the boat directly over the boat. Let me show you what I mean. If I turn off the background layer, I just have the boat by itself. There we go. So it was pasted directly on the boat. Now if I turn on back my shadow and the building, then I would want this boat, I'm going to call this layer boat. And I would want my boat to be like that. Let's turn on back the background. There we go. And that is looking a bit more reasonable. Now perhaps I need my shadow to be a little darker. You can, we can mess with that. Additionally, I do believe this shadow is supposed to be a little obscured when it at this point here. Now you can really, that point here should be a bit more obscured. Now you can really get down and dirty in terms of how you want your shadows to be. If you are a person that is very particular about shadows, well, that is great, because that will help you to for your buildings to come out looking, your compositions to come out looking more real. So in this area, this shadow should really kind of cut off at that point there. So
right, I think this is something that you would have done maybe in first year, right? You guys did shadow in first year, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you can, make that as detailed as how you want.
We're going to use the same concept that we used before, where we're going to actually duplicate this layer. So there is the house, is that little building there. I'm going to duplicate that layer. I'm going to right click and choose duplicate. I'm going to call this layer shadow, and I'm going to put this, sorry, not shadow, I'm going to call it reflections, short REF. I'm going to put it below, even below the shadow layer, and I'm going to flip this around by just clicking the middle and just dragging it down. In some Photoshop I need to hold shift, so I gotta hold shift to drag it down and just kind of flip it the opposite way like that. There we go. Then I want to kind of skew this into position, so we're going to use back some of these tools that we we're familiar with.
So guys, I think you remember doing this with the car, right?
Yes, sir, we do.
Exactly. So this is basically just kind of solidifying a lot of those tips that we learned before. But this time we're applying it to actual piece of architecture, right? And it's coming directly from SketchUp, right? So and this is exactly what compositing is. We put all of this together, and then you're gonna save your image as a JPEG, right? And then we're gonna go back into layout. And layout is pretty straightforward. It's just like what we did. Well, let's say pre-Melissa, what we did before, right? So if you guys don't remember how to use layout, just refer back to that video. But that is basically it for what we're doing, for what we're doing today in terms of more advanced modeling and techniques in SketchUp, right? So to access the assignment, so here, I think I do need to unlock the assignment. All right. So we go back. So go back to the class website, all the way up the top. We should see here assignment 1, right? Right now it is closed because I usually close it before I release the assignment. All right, so if you are on the website, all you need to do is to refresh. There we go, just hit refresh and there we go. So you click assignment 1. It's exactly as I showed you before, guys. Now, for those of you that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a little starter video. Maybe for those of you who the confidence level in SketchUp is not that much. Also, some persons are not in this class. So to help us out in terms of getting back on track, when I post this recording, I'm going to also put a little starter video to get you started with that assignment, meaning show you how you can start the modeling process for this building. To get the dimensions for the building, you need to click the link to the assignment files. You will see a folder here called plans. When you go into it, these are the plans of the building. Oh, this is a PDF. Oh, okay. Right. So I have a couple of files here. Here is the building plan. So this is the floor plan. This is the elevation. This is a model of the 3D because of course I built it. I did build it myself. This is duplicated. Right. This is an example of what your sheet should look like when you put everything together. And what is this? This is a compositing guide. So what I went through a while ago, I created some screenshots in case you guys don't remember how to do that work. So this is a little tips that you can find here to help you guys out. And this, I believe, is a modeling guide. So I actually carried the image in Photoshop and cropped it down. You don't have to do that, but I did it. You know, this is just me screenshotting how I did it. You don't necessarily have to follow me, but I placed the images in SketchUp, set my units, and then started to just trace it with boxes and all of these things.
Now, as I said, guys, I'm gonna do a little video that can help you to get started. Remember, we have a couple weeks to work on this, so I will check up on how you're doing next time we meet, right? By next time we meet, I'm hoping some of us would have at least started the modeling process. All right, guys.
Yes, sir.
Right, but that is pretty much it for class today with advanced modeling tips in SketchUp. All right. Yeah, Rochelle.
Sir, don't forget to open the assignment again.
All right. You mean this assignment that I just did?
Yeah, the assignment 1. It's not open on the portal yet.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, probably. So when you go to the submission, it's. Oh, you are not seeing it open on your end? Like when you click. Which asset? This one here?
Yeah, sir. When I go on the site, and I try to click it, it's not.
Oh, refresh.
Still locked.
Yeah, refresh it and it should be open. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Good. All right, guys. So that is 2 down. Remember, we did this one, the studio-based assignment. We did this a couple weeks ago when you created the poster. Not a lot of persons submitted that one yet. That one was pre-Melissa, so technically it should be, done. As I said, I will relax the submission time frames. Just try and get it done as quick as you can, guys. Because as I say in my email, at some point in time, UTech is going to have some kind of cutoff for when the lecturers need to submit grades. And your grades need to be in my system so that I can submit your grades so you can be progressed this semester too. So please don't use this lax due date to procrastinate, right? Try and push as much as you can, right? So you can get everything in so that you guys can be. I will see you again. Well, no, I'm not going to see you next semester. You're going to have a different lecturer, but I think I'm going to see you the semester after that, right? But I'm here for your entire computing journey. I am either in the foreground or in the background because, as I said, I help to structure all of these modules and keep everything up and running. All right. So that is our class for today, guys. Please hang in there. Say hello to your classmates for me, and as usual, I'll post the summary and the recording so you guys can follow along. All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care, guys.
Likewise, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Bye,
cool.
sir.
All right, cool. Next week.
Sir,
Yeah.
I would have submitted the InDesign assignment, but I still don't have it. The software itself is not allowing me to save it. I could only export it. So whenever I'm able to get the proper file, I would have to do it over so you can get the file itself.
You mean the InDesign file?
Yeah, I could just give you a PDF or whatever, but I can't give you the actual